Going back to Alan Watt. Alan, continuing, because people get confused by Protestant, Jesuit, Catholic, all these groups. They set up the World Council of Churches. Before that, the National Council of Churches. The Rockefellers running it. Same thing there, where every major denomination is controlled by these people.
Yep. There's no doubt about it. They run all organizations. They get them all appearing to be in conflict. But the whole process goes to resolution, a predetermined resolution that the public eventually accept. So they use all advanced type guards, conflicts, rebellious types to steer the world. They even use major wars in the same way. During World War II, Joe Stalin was Uncle Joe. Immediately after, they needed another enemy, and he became the great big bad bear. And so they always have an enemy, because to keep control over masses of people, you must have war or the threat of war.
Alan, we're going to have you back up for another 2 hours in the future. I promise to go to calls. Let's go ahead and take some calls right now. Let's go ahead and talk with Steve in Colorado. Steve, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, hi, Alex. Hello, Alan. I have 3 questions regarding material that you've just mentioned, just some details. First of all, do you know what the date was that you mentioned Eric Margolis wrote in the Toronto Sun about Gorbachev's speech?
That was just before they announced the takedown.
I remember that was all over the news at the time. You can dig that up. I don't have to.
Yeah, look into the Toronto Sun archives and you'll find it there.
That was in 1991.
Okay.
Eric Margolis. Yeah.
Okay, Margolis, Margolis.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Second question is, you had mentioned Margaret Thatcher's tour of the world, I think you called it.
New World Order, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what year was that?
It was in the early 90s. She spoke even in Massey Hall in Toronto, and the title of her talk was The New World Order. In that talk, it was printed, strangely enough, on a weekend. I think the main editor was off, and a novice reporter was there. It was very straightforward. She talked about the parallel government, which he now belonged to, that really ran the world. It was printed in the Toronto Sun again. And
anything else, Steve?
Yes. Okay, and you said that was Massey Hall in Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the final question was, what is this group that you said that Ignatius Loyola belonged to? I think you said Bratton or something like that?
The Alumbratos is Spanish for Illuminati.
Okay, how are you spelling
Illuminati were there long before Adam Weishaupt.
Yeah, Adam Weishaupt was just one putsch or one junta that was launched out of Germany into France. And then, of course, they failed there, so they brought in Napoleon.
Okay, how are you spelling how are you spelling that word?
Brados, B-R-A-D, I think it is, O-S.
Okay, Brados.
Alumbratos. Yeah.
I see. Okay, very good.
Illumin, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call. Let's go ahead and talk to Leo in Mass. Leo, you're on the air. Welcome.
Mr. Watt and Alex. Mr. Watt, when you come on, I am afraid to call because I don't want to break your skein of thought. It's so clear. Anyway, I have one thing I want to say about I go around debunking World War II, and one of my prime methods is to use Dunkirk as to why he was just another control.
Yeah, Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Goering, the head of the Luftwaffe, allowed 300,000 French and British troops with their equipment to escape, and they say it's because Hitler loved them and liked them.
Yeah,
go ahead.
A chess player doesn't do that. Anyway, but my real thing is, I've been thinking recently about Joe McCarthy and the hearings. Now, I think he was really onto something, but they said, let him go. He'll self-destruct. And that's what happened. I remember he self-destructed in the public, and the whole thing died. I am so furious that his handlers didn't tell him to cool down.
Well, let's be clear. Let me comment. Let's be clear about McCarthy. He was a good guy. He meant well, but he only thought it was a communist conspiracy, which they then used to take the general public's freedoms and liberties in the nation and create a hysteria and fear, as Alan said, enemy creation. But as soon as he found the documents that the army and that our government was funding the Soviets, he was totally destroyed instantly, because that was about to expose that communism was just a fake front. Just like we knew from books that were written and inside people that Mao was put into power in 1949, now it's admitted on the History Channel, and they have the old CIA section chiefs who are now dead, but videos of them admitting that they put Mao into power. Alan Watt?
Yes, and if you look into what's really interesting, you see Adolf Hitler, for a long, long time, he truly thought that Britain was going to, and he wrote about this, Britain would come on board.
Yeah, they had a secret deal, and that's why Albert Hess parachuted in his full uniform in England trying to meet with the king. Go ahead.
No, well, actually, he landed on Lord Lothian's land.
That's right,
Lord Lothian at that time was the head of the Royal Institute for International Affairs.
And he was supposed to be brought to the royal family, and he was saying, why are you breaking your deal? Go ahead. That's
exactly what it was. And he landed on Lord Lothian's land. He was the head of the Royal Institute at that time for International Affairs. And he basically was saying, what's up? We're supposed to call it off now.
Because the previous head, and I'm just adding this for listeners that don't know, the previous head, of course, was Lord Milner. And,
yes.
And so he had set Hitler up. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also, too, in a book is called Fringes of Power, written by Churchill's secretary, he said that Churchill was telling the public to go off and fight for their culture, their country, and to save England. And meanwhile, at parties, he was saying this war is the greatest thing that ever happened. We'll get a united Europe out of this, our lifelong dream.
And then in 1949, he did the Treaty of London, which really set up the EU, but then they officially set it up with the Treaty of Rome, 1947. And that's why now we've seen the conversion of Tony Blair over to Catholicism so he can head up a Catholic Europe. But people then want to say it's a Catholic conspiracy. No, the Catholic Church is a unit of this. I'm not debating its New World Order. I'm just trying to say that there's groups above that, and people get mad at me. They want me to say it is a Catholic conspiracy, Alan.
Yeah, I know. There's no doubt you'll use everything.
And we're saying it's run by them. There's no debate here.
Yes.
I mean, we're saying that it's near the top of the pyramid, but no, we've got to say it's only Catholic and that the Protestants are good. No, they're run by the same thing.
If you look into Milner's groups, now Milner and with the Cecil Rhodes combination with the Round Table groups, they created what they called the Young Turks, the Young Italians, the Young Zionist groups, and so on, all revolutionary groups to bring in world revolution. So they used all existing types and members.
And now it's the La Reconquistas here in the U.S.
Same technique. Yeah.
And that's why you see big money, big network owners running billboards, almost 700 of them at tens of thousands apiece in L.A., saying L.A.'s Mexico. That's why you see Absolute Vodka with, $50 million ad campaigns saying the U.S. belongs to Mexico. They are funding it.
The Rockefellers were the first ones to come out and fund that particular group.
Now, that's just one microcosm. Thank you, caller. I really do appreciate your call. Now let's go ahead and talk to David in Texas. You're on the air, David.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing? First of all, I want to congratulate you on your 4th hour and wish you best on luck on that.
Please spread the word about it.
I'll do my best. I'm actually just calling in. I don't have any way of getting it. I don't have a working computer right now.
We're going to have it on AM and FM stations in shortwave by next week. Go ahead.
Yeah, you might. If you get the Delta daytime frequency 12180 or whatever it is.
12160, yes, sir.
12160, and maybe you can talk to Mike Jones or something about it. But anyways, I had a couple very quick comments. I wanted to also put in my 2 cents worth of memoriam to Charlton Heston. I actually appreciate his legacy overall. No one's perfect, but he was a good man. He meant well. I agree with your take on him. So I want to just briefly mention that, and we will miss him. As someone who really is a patriot and supports conservatism, true conservatism, as you like to put it, and I agree with that, I think that we need to get back. I have a personal view. We need to get back to more constitutional government. I have several proposals: term limits, reform in the Electoral College, going back to having states pick the senators, getting rid of the income tax.
All good. All things the bankers put in 1913.
Hard asset-backed money as opposed to the phony money or fiat money we have now. Term limits, balanced budget amendment requirement, property rights amendments against abuses by eminent domain, getting rid of asset forfeiture seizures.
Excellent point, sir. Do you have any comments or questions for Alan Watt?
Yeah, I quickly wanted to mention I appreciate the work that he's done, and I listen to a lot of his work in broadcasting and other sources that he does regularly, and I appreciate his work in researching the New World Order. The thing I think is, why do these people think they're entitled to this, one? And two, what would he recommend average people do to band against bringing down the whole grand scheme they have of wanting to take over the world and do away with anyone other than their fellow elite?
Mm-hmm. The why is quite simple. They've been in charge of this world for thousands of years, and they've built up empires, and as they move out of one old empire, they take their wealth with them, and it collapses behind them.
Yeah, it's parasites. They come in, use it as an engine, attack the neighbors, get more Lebensraum, more land. Then, because they built up power in that nation, they have to destroy it so that the sub-elite there doesn't threaten them, and then they move on to the next group. But finally, with a one-world government, they can wage war against full humanity through survival of the fittest, the social Darwinistic view that it's the elite's right and their responsibility to slaughter and kill the public.
Yes. And again, to combat this, when you realize the magnitude of it, because it's your whole reality, it's your whole indoctrination, it's your daily indoctrination if you watch television, then you have to come to a decision on a personal basis first. You don't run out and just join a group and realize you've been fooled again. You've got to change yourself, and you must be willing to stand up as an individual against whatever you see as right or wrong around you in society, regardless of what's now politically correct or what will be tomorrow.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take another phone call. Let's talk to, but there's so many I can't tell who to go to next here. I'll tell you what, just air whoever you want. We're going to go to Bart in Houston. Go ahead, Bart. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Alan. It's good to hear you guys talk. This last week, Joseph Nye came to Houston, Texas, and I had a chance to catch up with him at the World Affairs Council. It's kind of like a subgroup for the CFR to come out and introduce their indoctrination to, the people that think they're elites all around the country. And I really have to say, I knew he was coming, so I did a lot of research, and I read up a lot on what he's been writing about. And I think that what we're really going to see, I really do think we're going to see Obama or Clinton come in, because everything this guy's writing about, and this is the founder of neoliberalism, he's one of the top 10 policy thinkers, he's Bilderberg, he's head of the North American Trilateral Commission. Everything he's talking about is the need to recapture domestic opinion here and public opinion abroad.
Yeah, let me add something to what you're saying. Congress has an 11% approval rating, even in their admitted polls. That's what I'm saying. I'm a little more optimistic, I think, than Alan is sometimes, though he understands that and I understand they're trying to even angle on that, and then they'll create another counter-revolution to add even more fervor and blood and belief to energize their system. They love having salesmen that really push their agenda in a well-meaning way. That's very convincing, and it gets through people's instincts against evil. So it's very sophisticated. But you're right. They are coming in, and they're very good at every city, even little towns, have their own good old boys, boss hogs, people who think that they're the elites. And that's why they go along with it, because they're well-meaning people in most cases. And they believe, with the compartmentalized info they're given, that they're part of some larger elitism. And that, it's not corruption. It's somebody's got to control things. And they are desperately right now, that's what Obama keeps saying, change, make America know that we can work together, bring us back to the, quote, process. That means back to the controlled process. Alan Watt?
Yes, that's true. But we've got to remember, too, that above them, as Carl Quigley said, the new system that's come in is a feudal system where the CEOs of major international corporations are now the new feudal overlords.
Well, that's it. But what I'm saying is the people are seeing through the political simulation that isn't real. And so people are seeing the matrix like never before. I agree we're in the grid now, in the jaws. But, again, I don't think these enemies are gods like they think. I think they can be defeated, Alan.
They can be defeated very simply. And that's simply by the majority of the public not going along.
Seeing the man behind the curtain. Go ahead.
Yeah, not going along with the agenda and saying, no more. We should be in charge of our own food. We should be in charge of everything we need to live on an individual basis, not some remote multinational globalist agribusiness. We have to have the right to retain that which we need to survive personally. And when we have that back in our hands, then we have a voice, but not before.
Well, everything this guy was talking about is pure Hegelian, dualistic, mind control. I'll let you guys go, but at the end of his speech, I walked over to him, and I leaned over while he was signing books, and I said, "Sir, can I ask you one more question?" And he didn't look up at me, and he kept signing the books, and he said, "Yes, of course." And I said, recently, Zebrev Brzezinski was quoted as saying the prospects for a new world order had been put back 20 years by the missteps of the Bush and the neoconservatives. And I asked him, I said, do you agree with that assessment? He set the pen down and he turned so he could look right at me, and he said, we will recover. Mm-hmm. And just the chill of just how confident he was when he made that statement really has stuck with me. So I do think they can be defeated. I do think...
Yeah, here you are talking to a top globalist minion, a super gopher, and they're point-blank admitting it to you. Then you go tell the poor schmuck down the street, and they've been pre-programmed. It doesn't exist. I really do appreciate your call. Let's go ahead now and talk to Dan in California. Dan, you're on the air. Welcome.
Well, thank you, sir. And I really appreciate the work that you guys have done, Alex, especially your early work with the films where you're, walking around exposing UN plaques on national parks and things like that. My take or my question is, how do we get all of our legal capital together to simply restore the Constitution? It all breaks down to a law enforcement problem.
Well, the police have been militarized, brainwashed. Even if the cop is good on average on the ground, the system is predatory and wicked. That's why the White House came out and tried to, in the open, promote torture. That was because they were already carrying it out, and they had people complaining inside their system, so they thought by just putting it in plain view, that would neutralize their own people, thinking it was illegal. So they have to always push the envelope because they want to do this on a mass scale. Alan Watt?
Yes, it'll take something on the scale of the Tiananmen Square massacre, where we stand in front of tanks one day. That's what's coming. That's what's coming. Don't kid yourself.
Hopefully we can do that, but I just wanted to comment about, what do you think about the Royal Institute of International Affairs? It's the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yes.
Doesn't that confer a title of nobility to its membership? And, of course, in the Constitution it says no state shall grant titles of nobility, but I believe it also says that no elected official to Congress or the...
Yeah, let me comment on that in the interest of time, and then Alan will take a few final calls. The Logan Act says that our politicians, state or federal, can't go to meetings where policies being set and private interests are there secretly or without publicly admitting they're going with Congress's approval. But Hillary, Bill, the Bushes before they're in power, Tony Blair, they all do it. Now we see them exercising corruption in front of us. We've seen both Hillary and we have seen John McCain go to Rothschild meetings and other public meetings and be given hundreds of thousands of dollars for going and speaking at those meetings for their campaign. Illegal, out in the open. So they're publicly setting the precedent that if you run for county commissioner and violate one little letter of the law, you're going to go to prison. But if you're the big politician, they can do what they want. So that is selective enforcement. And then as for titles of nobility, the British did set up the CFR, but it's not a public title of nobility. It is really an intelligence agency operating where they give you favors if you serve them at the heads of banking, academia, media, government, at state and federal and international liaison, State Department type level. Alan Watt?
Yes, in fact, I think it was Quigley also described what a technocrat was. A technocrat is someone who works behind the scenes, not elected generally, but has the real power in the parallel government to make decisions. He's not responsible to the public.
Yeah, they're the experts. They're the thinkers.
Yes. And so you're right with the professors. I looked at the transhumanist agenda, their big global meeting recently, and every major professor from across the planet, from universities, they happened to attend. Every big person was there. These are the sellout prostitutes who believe they're going to be allowed to come into this new world order and be saved with their families because they have superior genes and intellect. And that's why they're all working fervently towards the same goal for their masters.
Publicly writing books about it, and then the general public has been preconditioned by them it doesn't exist, like you tell children.
Yes.
We're all treated like children. They've trained us to have an extended childhood. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and talk to Mike in Illinois. Mike, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
Good, sir.
I just want to say thank you for you, Jesse Ventura, Ron Paul, all these people who have helped open up my eyes within the past month. I had no idea of any of this. I served in the military. I'm now a disabled veteran. And I actually served under a command where I had a commander and a master chief who was a Freemason. And there were certain things that I wouldn't be able to do or say because of subjecting my rights. But I wanted to thank you guys. And then I also had a question. The question is state militia, independent state militias. Are we for them? Are we against them? I mean, what's their status? I mean, don't they?
No. It's. I mean, we need to have a state militia, an organized one, and then an unorganized one, and that's why you see the elites going after that.
Okay.
But the elite knew that we needed an armed mass of citizenry to basically kill the Native Americans. And of course, most of the founding fathers believed in it. They were good guys, but they were being manipulated too. So for a time, we were allowed to be armed because they were going to populate the frontier with families. And so it was kind of going into a militarized Spartan type society. And the elites even said it's the new Atlantis. This will be the new Sparta. And so we were allowed to be